Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Meat for the Grinder, our series of Necromunda Dominion campaign battle reports, and this is battle report number 50, and this one is actually a four-way battle. It is a pit fight scenario that's fought between my four friends, Smells Like Febreze, Iron Major, Brother Grimm, as well as Lady Domina. Smells Like Febreze is playing the Chainbreakers of the Ogryns slaves, Iron Major is playing the Prophets of Rage of the Corpse Grinder cults, Brother Grimm is playing of the Pelago-Slam Kings of the Goliaths, and Lady Domina will be representing the Killjoys of House Escher. So this would be a four-way battle for this scenario in our Meat for the Grinder mini campaign. We're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the gangs are bringing for this one, go ahead and pause, take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is pit fight. What ends up happening is each of the gangs actually chooses one fighter to be their champion for their gang. Traditionally, you're supposed to pick one of your champions to fight in this one. Unfortunately, though, the Pelago-Slam Kings don't have a champion, so they picked one of their normal fighters to fight for them instead. The objective is actually be the very last champion standing. There's some special rules called It's Only a Scratch, which means that we ignore flesh wounds if you roll that up for an injury die. However, if you roll a serious injury on the injury die, those count as flesh wounds instead, and you cannot do any coup de grace on this one as well. So those are some special rules for that. Plus, also when it comes for the different weapons usage, for rounds 1 through 2, you can't use any grenades or any ranged weapons for the first 2 rounds. Round number 3, you could use, round 3 and 4, you can use ranged weapons, but if they have the unwieldy trait, you can't use those at all. And of course, grenades can also be used at that point. And of course, round 5 onwards, it's no holds bar. For the rewards on this one, the victorious champion earns D6 times 5 credits for each of the champions who were defeated. So every single one they kill somebody, they earn D6 times 5 credits. When it comes to their experience, they earn 1 point of experience for each participant, as well as 1 point of experience for each enemy that is taken out of action, plus D3 experience points if you happen to be the very last champion standing. For reputation, all gangs involved get 1 point of reputation for having a champion show up. If a champion survives to round number 6, they earn 2 points of reputation, and if whoever his gang has the last remaining champion left standing, they earn 4 reputation points. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, it's actually a pretty small battlefield. It's only 4 tiles of Zomortalis terrain, and the reason why is because only 4 members, people are actually fighting on it. It's for the different gang champions on this one. So this one's going to be kind of interesting because now it's all about individual combat. As you can see, my buddy Brother Grimm has put Flesh Stick for his champion there on the left-hand side. We got Dredge Borsha from the Corpse Grinder cults of the Prophets of Rage on the right-hand side. We have Mad Donna, the champion of the Killjoys, on the bottom, and then, of course, we have Korgel, the champion, or the Ogre Underboss, for the Chainbreakers on the top. Now, as for what their battle plan is, I'm not really sure what the battle plan is for each of these gangs because I'm just the arbitrator in this one. I'm just taking the photos for the battle report. You would have to ask them. But I'm pretty sure the objective is for them to kill their opponents and to be the last one standing. I can basically surmise that one. Alright, so starting out with deployment, over here on the left-hand side, we have the Pelago-Slam Kings, and their champion is Flesh Stick. He is a normal ganger because the Pelago-Slam Kings do not have a champion anymore. He got killed in the earlier part of the campaign. He's equipped with furnace plates. He's also got a renderizer, so he has that for his main weapon. He's also packing a stub gun with dum-dum rounds, as well as packing a stim slug stash as well. Up next, representing Smell Like Febreze is the Chainbreaker. She decided to use her Ogryns underboss Korgel. That character's armed with furnace plates. He's got a pair of augmented fists, so he's really deadly in close combat. He's also packing frag grenades, and he also has a stim slug stash as well. He's also got a runaway as well as Iron Man skills as well. So that guy is probably the biggest and most deadliest member and champion on the battlefield for this scenario. On the right here on the hand side of the battlefield, of course, we have Dredge Borsha. Dredge Borsha, of course, is the champion representing the Prophets of Rage for the Corpse Grinder cult. He is a cutter who's armed with a cutter's mask, so that way he's protected from shooting. He's also equipped with plate mail. He's also carrying a rotary flensing saw as well as a cult icon, and he has got the Frenzy special rule as well as a Dervish special rule associated with him as well. So this guy is definitely kitted out for close combat. And finally, on the bottom of the table, we have Mad Donna of the Killjoys. She's the champion of the Killjoys, the House Escher gang. In her campaign, she's packing mesh armor. She's got a heavy stubber as well as a last gun. She's also packing a last pistol, and she also has a drop wig with suspensors, and as well as a dodge skill. Unfortunate for her, though, she's only packing ranged weapons, so the only thing she fights with in close combat is her bare fist. So that part is kind of rough for her. So with our deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and all 4 of my friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will be going first. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Eschers of the Killjoys managed to get the initiative on this one. So you can see in this photo, Lady Dama decides to send her champion, Mad Donna. She does a double move over to the left-hand side of the battlefield, taking cover behind that black car as well as that barrier right there as well. And the reason why is because she really can't do any really attacks really until round 2, until the end of round 2 rather, beginning of round 3. And the reason why is because this character is only packing range weapons. She has no close combat weapons, so no knives, no mauls, nothing like that. She does have a pistol, but then again, that's also a long-range weapon, so she won't be able to use that until round number 3. So things are not looking very good for Mad Donna right now. So from Lady Domino, we then jump over to Brother Grimm, and it's kind of funny because Brother Grimm and Lady Domino are married in real life, and he decides to send in Flesh Stick. The first thing he does, he acts to have him jack up with a suppressor using some of his Stim Slick stash, so that he gets +2 to his strength, toughness, as well as his movement phase. He does that so that way he can make a long distance charge. He rolls a 6 on the charge distance, and he just goes flying across the battlefield directly at Mad Donna and also catching her in close combat. It also adds +2 to his strength as well as toughness in the preceding combat that takes place afterwards. And unfortunately for my friend Lady Domina, she loses Mad Donna. Mad Donna suffers a memorable death and gets eliminated and killed right from her army roster. What ends up happening is that Flesh Stick managed to hit her 3 times with his Renderizing Axe and also managed to wound 3 times, putting 6 damage dice directly onto her as well. 3 of them rolled up out of action when they rolled up for the number of injuries that she actually sustained. So of course, when Brother Grimm rolled for the dice, he rolled 2 6s, and just like that, Mad Donna is dead. He gets a bonus experience points for killing a champion, another experience point for putting a character out of action in this battle report, and he also gets an additional bonus point on top of that for actually getting the memorable death result as well. So just like that, Lady Domina is short one champion, and the Goliaths are the first one to bring first blood in this pit fight. So, not to be outdone, Smells Like Febreze then gets to go next, so she activates Korgel, and Korgel does a double movement moving down from the top of the battlefield, heading directly to the bottom left-hand corner, moving a maximum distance of 10 inches right next to that burnt-out ambulance ruin that's right there on the left-hand side. And so that pretty much makes up Smells Like Febreze's activation for this one. And Iron Major, of course, does exactly the same thing with his character. He decides to activate Dredge Borsha, and the guy actually does a double movement as well, moving along the entire length of the right-hand side of the battlefield to the corner, so that way he can charge directly into the bottom left. And so with the action phase over with, we skip end phase because nobody needs it, and we go directly to the end of the turn. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 1 for this battle report. As you can see, the forces are slowly converging on the bottom left-hand corner of the table. You can see that Flesh Stick is standing triumphantly there over the corpse of Mad Donna. And at the same time, you can see that Smell Like Febreze as well as Iron Major starting to move their forces in order to start engaging. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and my 3 friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will be going first. So we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Slave Ogryns get to go first, so if Smells Like Febreze, she gets to get the initiative on this one. So the first thing she does, of course, is activate her champion, Korgel. Korgel declares a charge, but unfortunately for her, though, she just doesn't have the distance in order to close the gap between her as well as Flesh Stick. I think she moves up 8 inches in all what she ends up doing, so she goes over the car and just ends up about a couple inches short of getting Flesh Stick, which is a really bad spot for her character to be in because now she can be countercharged by Brother Grimm with his Flesh Stick. However, the only thing that going for Smells Like Febreze though is that she's packing an Ogryn who's much tougher and has much more wounds, so it could actually kind of work out for her all in the end. So next in the initiative list, Brother Grimm is going next. So the first thing he does, of course, he charges forward with Flesh Stick. It goes trashing directly into Korgel. So because the 2 of them start going into a close combat, which is actually a pretty good move for my friend because Brother Grimm that way gets an additional attack from charging forward with his Renderizer as well. In the end, Brother Grimm is able to put 2 wounds onto Smell Like Febreze's champion, so because that Smells Like Febreze, she's got a panic right now because she's only got 1 more movement left on her character before he either goes out of action, gets flesh wounded, and that's really about it, because that's right, because we have adjusted rules in this one as well. So things are looking kind of grim right now for Smells Like Febreze. And finally, Iron Major also does a double movement once again with Dredge Borsha. He just moves up his normal 10 inches, double movement, getting closer to the left-hand corner of the battlefield as well. So with that very last activation, that pretty much ends turn number 2. There is no end phase, so we go directly to the end of the turn. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield at the end of turn number 2. As you can see, Korgel as well as Fleshstick are fighting the left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner of the battlefield, and I see that Dredge Borsche is moving up as quickly as he can in order to close the distance, so that way Iron Major can also get involved in the fight as well. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and my friends roll off for initiative to see which of them will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3, and Slave Ogre is to go first again, so Smells Like Febreze, she decides to activate her gang champion, Korgel. He attacks directly into Fleshstick, and managed to only put a flesh wound directly onto Fleshstick as well. And the reason why is because normally she actually rolled a serious injury result on the die, is what she ended up doing, but because of the modified rules for champions, it ended up being a flesh wound instead. So because that, he is easier to wound now because his toughness drops, but at the same time though, he is still pretty deadly. He's still got good close combat attacks, so my friend Smells Like Febreze, she has her work definitely cut out for this fight. The next fighter who has priority is Iron Major, and Iron Major declares a charge with Dredge Borsche. So Dredge Borsche goes directly into Korgel, charging directly down the right-hand flank, and he gets that charge off successfully. So because of that, he decides to attack forward with his rotating flincing saw. And in the end, he also eats up Smells Like Febreze's very last wound for a champion, and also at the same time puts a flesh wound on him as well. When Iron Major rolled for the injury die, he actually rolled a serious injury, but because of the modified rule, it automatically becomes a flesh wound instead. And unfortunately for my buddy Brother Grimm, when he gets to go next, he tries to attack, but unfortunately he just flubs his rolls, so nothing really much happens. And that pretty much ends up at the end of the turn, and since nobody's injured right now with serious injuries, that brings directly to the end of the turn. So here's the end of the top of the battlefield, the end of turn number 3. As you can see now, all 3 fighters from the 3 gangs are now converged in that bottom left-hand corner, fighting it out. So far, the only one who's not injured right now is Iron Major's Dredge Borsche from the Prophets of Rage. He is perfectly fine, while the other 2 fighters, Smell Like Febreze's Korgel of the Chainbreakers and Brother Grimm's Fleshstick from the Pelago-Slam Kings, both those guys are packing flesh wounds, and things are looking pretty good right now for Iron Major as well as the Corpse Grinder cults. So with that, that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 4, and my buddy Brother Grimm gets to go first, and the first thing he decides to do is a break from contact. He moves back, I think 3 inches is what it ends up doing. He moves back 3 inches for his first basic action, then he takes a second basic action because now guns are freed, and he tries to pop off a shot with his stub gun with the dum-dum rounds directly into Dredge Borsche. Unfortunately for him though, he does miss the shot, so nothing much happens from there, and that pretty much makes up Brother Grimm's movement for this one. So Iron Major goes next, and then activates Dredge Borsche, who attacks with his rotating flincing saw directly into Korgel. Manages to put 2 more flesh wounds on that guy as well. So things are looking very bad for this character. He only got about 2 more flesh wounds left before he automatically goes out of action. But at the same time though, while he is easier to wound though, he can still fight and still has pretty good attacks. So things are still looking pretty good for Smells Like Febreze right now. So Smells Like Febreze gets to go next, so she decides to activate Korgel, who puts both of his attacks from his augmented fists directly into Dredge Borsche. Eats up both of his wounds and actually puts a serious injury on him, but because of the modified rules of it's only a scratch, it ends up being a flesh wound as well. So now everyone is carrying flesh wounds on this battle report. And since nobody's right now seriously injured, that takes directly to the end of the turn. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 4 for the pit fight scenario. As you can see, Dredge Borsche is actually packing a flesh wound, same thing with Fleshstick, and Korgel is definitely packing a lot of flesh wounds as well. And as you can see, Brother Grimm decided to kind of play the long game and decided to break contact, so that way he can start doing some shooting with his pistols, which is actually pretty smart because, you know, the only other person with ranged combat right now is Korgel, and he's packing frag grenades, so that's really about it. So with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 5, and once again, the Goliaths get the initiative on this one, so Brother Grimm gets to go first, and what he decides to do is to move Fleshstick up his normal movement allowance right behind that black car, and then of course spends another turn to open fire with his stub gun with dum-dum bullets directly into Dredge Borsche, putting another flesh wound on that character as well. So because of that, Dredge Borsche now has 2 flesh wounds, Korgel has 3, as well as Fleshstick only having 1 at this point. So Smells Like Febreze gets to go next, and she finally finishes off Dredge Borsche by putting him out of action with a grievous injury, smashing his head in with a augmented fist. Because of that, he does go into recovery, and he is no longer participating in the battle report. Because she finally finished off taking out the Dredge Borsche, she then decides to follow through with Korgel, and Korgel moves up 3 inches into the top of the car, facing down Fleshstick, and planning on finishing him off in close combat. So here's a close overhead shot at the end of turn number 5. As you can see, the only 2 fighters left on the battlefield are Fleshstick as well as Korgel, and things are looking pretty desperate because whoever gets to go first will be the one that's basically going to win it for this one for turn number 6 of this pit fight scenario. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 6, and once again the Goliaths get to go first yet again. So Brother Grimm decides to declare a charge with Fleshstick, and as you can see in this photo, Fleshstick decides to charge right on top of the car hood, and also get on top and face off against Korgel on the top of this black limousine. So the 2 of them start engaging in close combat. And in the end, Flesh Stick prevails, putting a grievous injury off directly onto Korgel. Managed to hit him once with the Renderizing Axe, and because of his low toughness, he was able to slip that last few wounds on and finally put an out-of-act result on him. So because of that, Korgel does go immediately into recovery, and that pretty much ends up the scenario for this one. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battle, with the Goliaths managing to take the win on this pit fight scenario between the 4 gangs of the Pelago-Slam Kings, the Killjoys of House Escher, the Chainbreakers of the Slave Ogryns, as well as the Prophets of Rage for the Corpse Grinder cults. So with this battle report over with, we go directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, now it's time for the post-game where we talk about injuries, advancements, territories, trading, reputation, records, as well as ratings for each of the gangs. So starting off with the Killjoys, who actually lost this scenario. The injuries, they had one, which is Mad Donna, the champion, and she suffered a memorable death. So because of that, she gets eliminated off the roster as well. None of the members of her gang advanced at this time because the only one who could have gained experience was Mad Donna, but she died. From their territories, they earned 1 point reputation as well as 40 credits from their settlement, and decided during the trading post to take all 40 credits and put them directly into their stash as well. Because, save for rainy day because their champion just died. For the reputation, they're 1 point reputation for fighting in the scenario, as well as 1 from their settlement, bringing their grand total of reputation at 30 points. Their new record right now is at 4 wins and 6 losses, and the new gang right now is at 1,984 points. So in third place, we have the Prophets of Rage for the Corpse Grinder cults. From the injuries, they only suffered one, which is their champion, Drej Borsha. He suffers a grievous injury, so he automatically goes to recovery. He'll miss out his next game. At the same time, no members of this gang advance either. For their territories, from their settlement, they earned 1 point reputation as well as 10 credits, and they actually rolled 2d6 and recruited a brand new initiate named Bloody Nine, is what they actually named that guy. So Iron Mage decided to put that into his gang as well. Also in his fighting pit, he also earns 2 points reputation for that as well. At the trading posts, he decided to take the money that he won from the stash as well as from his settlement, and decides to purchase a boning sword as well as a stub gun with dum-dum rounds for the Bloody Nine. So because of that, the initiative is now fully equipped. From his reputation, earns 3 points reputation from the territories, 1 from the scenario, bringing his grand total to 12 points of reputation. His new record now is at 1 win and 2 losses, and his new gang rating now is at 1,480 points. And his second place is the Chainbreakers of the Slave Ogryns. For the injuries, Korgel, their champion, suffered a grievous injury, so he goes in recovery, and he'll miss out on his next battle report as well. From their advancements, they had nobody advance at this time, but from their territories, though, they earned 1 point of reputation, as well as 60 credits from their settlement. And from their collapsed dome, Smells Like Febreze decided to risk it by rolling 46 times 10 credits. And they actually end up with 140 credits in total. With her money, she decided to hire a new slave Ogryn named Chemo113, and they equipped him with a Storm Welder as well as a Brute Cleaver. And then she took the 20 remaining credits from that and put it directly into her stash. For her reputation, earns 1 point reputation from her territory as well as 1 from the scenario, bringing her grand total to 10. And her new record now is at 1 win and 1 loss, and her new gang rate now is at 1,688 points. And lastly, we have the Pelago-Slam Kings stealing the win on this one. For injuries, nobody was injured in this battle report, so because Flesh Stick was the man, and because he gained so many experience points, he actually leveled up twice, going all the way to level 4, earning +1 to his cool stat, as well as +1 to his toughness as well. From their territories, they earned 1 point of reputation, as well as 30 credits from their settlement, and they captured a brand new territory, which was a collapsed dome. And after watching Smell Like Febreze roll 46 times 10 credits, Brother Grim decided to do exactly the same thing, and also earned 140 credits in his value as well, so that part was pretty cool. With that money, he decided to hire 2 new Forgeborn, brand new fighters from the House of Chains book that just came out from the new supplement for the House Goliath characters. So he decided he liked the Forgeborn, he liked how deadly they were, decided to hire 2 of them. The first one's name is Nico Cola, and the other one's name is Stringer Bean. So with Nico Cola, he equipped that Forgeborn with a Storm Welder, a stub gun with dum-dum rounds, as well as furnace plate, and Stringer Bean is armed with a stub gun with dum-dum rounds, a fighting knife, as well as furnace plate. After it was all said and done, he had 5 credits left over, which he put directly into his stash. For his reputation, he earns 1 point of reputation from his territories, as well as 5 reputation from the scenario, bringing his grand total up to 34 points of reputation in total. His new record now is at 4 wins, as well as 6 losses, and his new gang ranking now is at 1,775 points. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to our channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.